It's a tough morning to wake up as a New England Patriots fan. You lose the number one overall pick or lose the chance to get the number one overall pick after beating the Buffalo Bills yesterday. And after the game, basically almost probably while Jerod Mayo was in the locker room celebrating a win with his team, he gets fired. I don't know if New England had the worst season I've ever seen, but this was kind of a dumpster fire when you look at the fact of his comments from the beginning of the season throughout this entire year, when you look at how this team operated on offense until Drake May took over as the quarterback, and when you look at the fact that this defense, a defense that's usually, you know, with Bill Belichick coaching it, one of the best in the NFL. And this defense definitely fell flat towards the end of the year and couldn't hold up this offense anymore. So the main point of this is, did Jerod Mayo really deserve it? And on one hand, no. I don't think many coaches really deserve to be fired in their first year, especially when you consider this was his first season with a rookie quarterback, with Jacoby Brissett also in the fold at quarterback. He kind of had a tough decision there to make. Do you go with the vet who doesn't really provide you much in the future, or do you go with the rookie who doesn't really provide you much in the present? It's a tough situation to be in. Eventually, I think he made the right decision to go to Drake May. And maybe in the long run, it was the right decision not to start him right away. You know, Drake May still threw 10 interceptions. Drake May still had some moments where you're saying, that's a rookie throw or that's a rookie moment. I think a big unexpected thing from Drake May this year was what he was able to do with his legs throughout the season. Over 400 rushing yards in 12 games is pretty incredible. But again, as a quarterback, we saw some moments with Drake May where we would have liked him to maybe make a better decision. And that's fine. He's 22 years old. We didn't need him to showcase that he was the best quarterback in the world. But it's some of the comments that get made by Jerod Mayo throughout this season, like in September, where he says on a radio show that Drake May outperformed Jacoby Brissett during the preseason, and then still was going to start Jacoby Brissett. And then you have moments throughout this year where he calls his team soft, or when he says that he's benching Ramondre Stevenson because of fumbling issues, and then 2 hours later, Ramondre Stevenson is basically the bell cow running back on the first drive of the game. It's just really weird how he decided to go about a lot of the things he did. And I think it was probably pretty weird for Robert Kraft and the front office of the New England Patriots, because they're used to Bill Belichick. They're used to a guy that's not going to be saying things like that. And he usually makes the right decision. And Bill Belichick usually is the guy that has the right answer almost every single time. But he's not going to put it out there. He's not going to be the one in the media. He's going to do his radio shows, and he's going to do his press conferences, and he's going to do everything that he's, mandated to do by the league. But he's not going to be a guy putting everything out in the stratosphere of NFL social media and NFL talk. He's just not going to do that. And I think this season was a big, put it out there that, we probably were wrong about Bill Belichick. And I'm speaking as the New England Patriots front office and with Robert Kraft and the Kraft family. It's probably a big smack in the face to say that we were probably wrong about Bill. We were probably wrong to push him out. We were probably wrong to say that a lot of these things were his fault that went on with this team. And we were probably wrong to fire him. I mean, really. I just don't see how this could have thought to been a good idea. You basically forced Jerod Mayo I, almost into this position. I feel like I don't know if Jerod Mayo really vetted his options in terms of having coaching staff or what he did, but I can imagine a lot of it more had to do with Robert Kraft and their front office than it had to do with Jerod Mayo. I don't know if Jerod Mayo wanted to hire Alex Van Pelt. I don't know if Jerod Mayo wanted to hire Ben McAdoo or DeMarcus Covington or any of the other coaches that they had on this team. Covington was already on the team, but you get my point. I don't know if he wanted to do any of this. And it didn't seem, at times, at least to me, it didn't seem like this was a team having any fun, any happiness playing football. And that's like a pure sign of a team that doesn't really want to play for their head coach, doesn't really care about what happens to their head coach, and doesn't really care about what happens to the season because they feel lost already. And so now who replaces Jerod Mayo? The obvious answer is Mike Vrabel. The obvious answer is Mike Vrabel. But, we have to see what's going to happen with the interview process. This is the first year where the interview process is not going to start until after the divisional round of the playoffs this year. And so a lot of these coordinators, a lot of these assistant coaches, they're not going to be hired by the time they're coaching a playoff game or a Super Bowl. They're still going to be actually preparing, and I think this is actually going to be really good for the playoffs. This is going to be good for the coaching staffs. But for the Patriots' concern, I'd almost wait until these playoffs are over to really try to vet out coordinator options because, look, as bad as the Patriots were this year, and as much of a clown show Robert Kraft and his family made of themselves with that whole dynasty show or whatever it was about, dragging Bill Belichick's name and, all of that stuff. As much of a clown show as they were, they still provide a very historic position as head coach of the New England Patriots. You could try to be the guy to continue Bill Belichick's legacy or to even improve upon it, which I would say is impossible, but you could do it. I think Mike Vrabel is probably the perfect guy for the position because he's actually not going to give a shit about Bill Belichick's legacy in a good way. He's actually just going to care about coaching the team in the right way. And he probably is going to be a guy, if he's hearing stuff from Robert Kraft, to say, I'm the head coach and there's a general manager. I think you need to step back. I don't know who another good option is, though. I think really it's Mike Vrabel or bust. And if you can't get Mike Vrabel, you got to get somebody that can be a developmental guy at the quarterback position that can improve Drake May into being a good player. And the thing is, New England's not going to be a playoff team next year. They're not going to be a Super Bowl contender. They need to get some sort of development offensively because with what they have at their disposal for the skill players after Drake May, you have Ramondre Stevenson, Antonio Gibson, Hunter Henry, and Pop Douglas. That's not a good recipe to say that you're going to be a good team. Now, I know there's some other guys like Kayshon Boutte. You hope eventually Jalen Polk can turn into something. But, KJ Osborne was a disaster. Tyquan Thornton, they finally cut bait with him. Jaheim Bell, who they drafted this year, didn't play very much. And Kendrick Bourne is a vet, but he's not anything for the future of this team. So, again, it probably has to be Mike Vrabel, but if it's not Vrabel, somebody offensively minded that's going to develop Drake May is really the best option for this team.